Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. Let's continue to debunk Ben Shapiro. Let's listen to what he says.
Continue to pretend that Hamas isn't to blame for civilians being killed, that Israel somehow has the magical, undisclosed ability to kill terrorists without killing the civilians that terrorists use as their shields. They have the Harry Potter-like ability to cast spells that just kill the bad guys. Here's Bernie Sanders idiotically expressing just that idea.
How should Israel destroy Hamas post-attack on these innocent civilians in Israel without hurting, killing innocent men, women, and children when Hamas is hiding behind them and putting them in danger? How does that work?
Well, that is exactly the right question to be asked the military experts, of which I am not one. But clearly, Israel has a right to defend itself. Hamas has sworn that's what its goal is to destroy Israel. They got to deal with that. But there got to be a better way than killing thousands of men, women, and children. So once again, the immediate concern is you got to have a pause in the bombing.
That's amazing stuff from Bernie Sanders there, openly saying that he has no idea what Israel is supposed to do, that he's not a military man, but he knows there has to be this is very reminiscent of when Joe Biden and company talk about police taking on bad guys, and they say, why don't you just shoot them in the leg? If you don't know what the hell you're talking about, this sounds good. But if you do, this sounds like a moron. Because Bernie Sanders is, in fact, a moron, because he has always been a moron. This lie that Israel is somehow being indiscriminate in its use of military force, that they have secretly a better way of just killing terrorists but not killing anyone else. Well, the thing is that theory justifies everything up to and including the genocidal October 7th attacks. That is the point, to create a retroactive justification for those attacks in the public mind. If the Jews are the kinds of people who drop bombs on Gazan babies just for fun, then what's the big deal that Hamas shot babies directly in the face and raped their mothers before murdering them? That is the case being made by the congresswoman from Hamas, Rashida Tlaib, who spent the weekend defending.
Ben Shapiro time and time again proves how dishonest he is. He knows there are other ways. Now, Bernie Sanders may not have that, but I'm pretty sure you've heard Muslim apologetics on the Piers Morgan show speak about this. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Young Turks who have spoken about this. It's called special operations. Special operations can minimize casualty. But Israel doesn't care about Muslim lives, Arab lives, so it doesn't want to go through the grilling process of going building to building, surrounding it and doing special operations where you may negotiate, you may go from building to building, clean it out, going from room to room to see whether Hamas is stockpiling weapons, to see whether Hamas is inside there holding a gun. You can go and do that just how you go through peace negotiations when there is a active kidnapping going in a building. Suppose in Tel Aviv you had a scenario where a guy held a building hostage. What would you do? Would you go and just throw a bomb and blow that 12-story building down? No, you will go there and you will surround the building and you will go to do negotiations. When that doesn't work, you'll go through and storm the building, go from door to door, and you start shooting and killing the target intended, sparing women and children, just like they did in Link Cafe in Sydney, Melbourne, Australia, where Man Monis took about 20 or 30 people captive. And after negotiations failed, the AFP, the Australian police, they went in, the squad, they went in and they started shooting and killing Man Monis. And of course, unfortunately, a civilian did die, but of course, they saved majority of the hostages. So why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? You may say, well, that's just a long grilling process. That's fine. You don't have to sit there 12 hours negotiating, but you can still go from building to building and clear it out. You apparently represent the, top 11 superpower in the world. you apparently have this incredible army and personnel and intelligence, and you can't do that. Because like I said, it's much easier to just press a button from the sky and just start blowing every building apart. It's much easier to do that because, again, you don't care about Arab lives. And so you'll pretend to, in order to wipe millions of Muslims in Gaza, you would just justify this by saying, oh, you know, we're trying to kill terrorists. We're trying to kill terrorists, but the real hidden motive is you don't care about civilian lives like you claim you do, and your objective is to wipe out and draw out all the Muslims in Gaza. That's why you're pushing himself. So when you actually destroy and kill them, it's to completely break the spirit of these people so they have nothing to return to. So how do you expect them to return, and return to what exactly? This is Israel's way of ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from their homelands once again, and continuing to humiliate and destroy the lives of all civilians who are already a perished people. So how exactly do these people claim to care about the lives of Palestinians, whom, by the way, 50% of them are under the age of 18? They don't care. They fool you into thinking they do. Their entire plan was to drive Palestinians out of their homes so they never return. And now it is just getting easier for them. Oh, look what happened in October 7th, so therefore they deserve this. They deserve the total annihilation. Because we all know the bigger plan. We all know it is about colonial expansion. We all know it's about colonial expansionism. Yes, Ben Shapiro, look at this meme. We all know it's about this. We all know it's the Trojan horse. We all know that the Jews are hiding. I mean, they're not even hiding, they're openly doing it, right? They've got the Trojan horse with the Zionist symbol. You can see, oh, we're bringing you Zionism. You know, we came to live in peace. But we know what's hiding inside. We know you're hiding the West and the colonialists inside. It's plain to see for everyone. We know your end goal is to invade that because Gaza has a potential oil and gas. And that is the entire reason why they don't care. They want to push them out of Gaza. And if they didn't, why would Benjamin Netanyahu offer Egypt to say, if you take these refugees, if you take these Gazans, then we are here willing to pay your debt. We're here to clear your debt. If you take them into Egypt, if you take these refugees, why is he saying that? If he had no plan to exterminate and kill them and push them out of Gaza, why the hell would he be offering another country of another foreign state to actually come and take all these refugees, and Israel is willing to pay off their national debt? So this is why Israel doesn't want to do special operations. It chooses to indiscriminately bomb and kill. So the 7 questions to ask Ben Shapiro. If Hamas was hiding in Tel Aviv, would Israel send jets to blow the city apart and level all buildings? 2. If Hamas was hiding Jews as human shields in a 12-story building in Tel Aviv and not Gaza, would Israel jets blow the entire building up knowing innocent Jewish families and civilians are living in it? Number 3. Would Zionists call it collateral damage if over 10,000 innocent Jews, including women and children, got killed in Tel Aviv city because Israel was bombing all all the underground tunnels Hamas created in Tel Aviv, including all the stockpiled weapons it was hiding in residential buildings belonging to Jews. Number 4, will Israel blow up Jewish hospitals in Tel Aviv if Hamas was hiding in there? Number 5, if Hamas was hiding in an Israeli hospital in Tel Aviv and this hospital had 12,000 Jewish patients, would it be acceptable for the IDF to give that hospital 2 hours notice to evacuate all patients and move north because they may intend to bomb it? Well, that's exactly what they did in a CNN report where they gave a Gazan hospital to evacuate in 2 hours, which is actually a war crime when you are torturing people beyond capability. And I made a video about this called the Death Marches of the Armenians. You can go check that out below this. Number 6, would Israel cut off food, water, electricity from Tel Aviv if they were fighting Hamas in Tel Aviv, which is known as collective punishment, another war crime? Would this be acceptable to the Jewish people? Number 7, would we tolerate Israel if the Israeli army fired artillery shells containing white phosphorus in Tel Aviv, like they did in Lebanon, southern border between 10 and 16th October 2023. The question is, folks, that no, Israel would not do that to its own Jewish people. And the reason being is because they consider the blood of the Jews much better than the blood of those Arabs, because those Arabs are just savages and animals as described by the Israeli defense minister. And so when you have racism in your heart, when you believe Jews are the only chosen people in front of God, then what do you expect to happen? How do you expect these people to actually think about those Arabs and Muslims when their own God is telling them that they are the chosen people? Their race is the chosen people. Where the lineage of Abraham's son only Isaac is blessed and his lineage is chosen by God. But Ismail, no, Ismail is a heretic. So let's now watch Mr. Ben Shapiro, the real reason why it doesn't really care about civilians, why it indiscriminately bombs and kills. Let's enlighten you.
You probably wouldn't know it, but Gaza is rich, gas rich, at least 1.4 trillion cubic feet rich to be precise. But there's a catch.
Geologists and natural resources economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory lies above sizable reservoirs of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the occupied West Bank and the Mediterranean coast off the Gaza Strip. To date, the real and opportunity costs of the occupation exclusively in the area of oil and natural gas have accumulated to tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars.
Back in 1999, the Palestinian authorities signed a deal with British Gas. Just off the Gaza coast, they struck it lucky, and 2 wells were drilled. That's Gaza Marine 1 and 2. It was a multi-billion-dollar gift from God, an economic boon both home and abroad.
This is one of the key messages here today. There will be gas available for export. And from my conversations with Palestinian officials, including President Arafat, it is clear that they have no interest in just sitting on a gas surplus.
Fast forward to 2007, Hamas comes to power, and Israel launches an offensive on the Gaza Strip, leaving behind 1,400 dead Palestinians, but taking with it the gas fields. Now, within the year, Israel announced the discovery of the Leviathan natural gas field, which did include Gaza's riches, all in all valued at $453 billion. Now, since then, Gazans haven't seen a shekel, or to be more accurate, they have been denied around $47 billion in revenue. As for Tel Aviv, well, it's gunning to become a new hub. This is a historical moment in which the small country of Israel becomes a significant player in the global energy market. The Memorandum of Understanding will enable Israel, for the first time, to export Israeli natural gas to Europe. And it is even more impressive looking at the significant set of agreements we signed over the last year, which position Israel and the Israeli energy and water sectors as a key global player.
Let's just run through this then. At that moment in time, so we're talking 2022, Russian oil and gas was sanctioned. Iranian oil was sanctioned. Syrian oil fields were, and still are, illegally occupied by US forces. Now, the key port of Latakia was being bombed by Israel, and the port of Beirut, the gateway to the Middle East, lay in ruins. Enter this small country of Israel right here with its seas of gas, its working ports, an answer to Europe's problems, and perhaps, most critically, the US blessing. Because in case you didn't know, US Congress has decided that Israeli energy is in the highest national security interests of Washington. So DC was only too happy for Tel Aviv to become a key global player. After all, it had itself previously mulled over ways in which to make its 51st state a window onto Europe.
Another interesting application of nuclear excavation would be a sea-level canal 160 miles long across Israel, connecting the Mediterranean with the Gulf of Aqaba, and thus the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. Such a canal would be a strategically valuable alternate to the present Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal is a gold mine. It connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean via the Red Sea. It is the link between Asia and Europe. Every day, almost 3 million barrels of oil, 8% of global energy, 50 ships, $9 billion worth of cargo, 12% of global trade all pass along this, right here, single canal. Remember in 2021 how a container ship ran aground in the Suez? Global trade was brought to its knees. The alternative route via the Cape of Good Hope adds around 9 days and 7,000 kilometers to the journey. There is no replacement for the Suez Canal, except perhaps for the Ben Gurion Canal. Now, what the US had been thinking about back in the 60s was dropping 520 nukes on parts of Israel, all to build a 260-kilometer-long canal that would start at the Red Sea down there in the port city of Eilat, run through the Negev desert, and pour out into the Mediterranean. Where exactly? Right next to northern Gaza, the same northern Gaza that is currently being bombarded and depopulated. Egypt and its money-making Suez Canal would just be sidelined. The same Egypt that, rumor has it, is now considering taking in refugees in exchange for debt relief by the US. And if you think it's crude of me to talk business during times of an existential war, think again.
The winning companies have committed to unprecedented investment in natural gas exploration over the next 3 years, which would hopefully result in the discovery of new natural gas reservoirs.
In recent weeks, Tel Aviv has handed out 12 new licenses to 6 companies, on top of the plan to tap more of the Gaza marine resources. This area is a strategic gold mine. The Israelis have their largest foreign base down the Red Sea, just off Eritrea. And here a bit further down, Beijing has a naval base in Djibouti, a key piece in its enormous global infrastructure project, the Belt and Road, hated by London, Brussels and Washington alike. Always ask yourself, cui bono, who benefits? Because war is horror and war is hell. But never forget that war, above all else, is big business.
Did you hear that, Ben Shapiro and all its brain-dead supporters? Israel, like most Western nations, has monetary interest in the region, just like America had in Iraq with its oil fields. And it is now controlling the Syrian oil fields in northern Syria, and that's why President Erdogan was booting the Americans out. And Donald Trump came out openly declaring he's there for the oil, and it's not even a secret. Let's listen.
But we are leaving soldiers to secure the oil. And we may have to fight for the oil. It's okay. Maybe somebody else wants the oil, in which case they have a hell of a fight. But there's massive amounts of oil, and we're securing it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it stops ISIS, because ISIS got tremendous wealth from that oil. We have taken it. It's secured. Number two, and again, somebody else may claim it, but either we'll negotiate a deal with whoever's claiming it if we think it's fair, or we will militarily stop them very quickly. We have tremendous power in that part of the world. We have, the airport is right nearby. A very big, very monstrous. So valuable for many reasons. It fueled ISIS, number one. Number two, it helps the Kurds, because it's basically been taken away from the Kurds. They were able to live with that oil. And number three, it can help us, because we should be able to take some also. And what I intend to do, perhaps, is make a deal with an ExxonMobil or one of our great companies to go in there and do it properly. Right now, it's not big. It's big oil underground, but it's not big oil up top. And much of the machinery has been shot and dead. It's been through wars. But
so there you go, folks. They're not even hiding that they're there in northern Syria for the oil. So is it now clear to you why they want to massacre and commit mass genocide? Let's listen to what a Zionist says on Jewish media in Israel.
לא נותרת אבן על אבן בעזה. עזה הופכת לדרזדן. כן, שריפה מוחלטת. כלו כל הקיצים, ואנחנו עדיין בראש של אוסלו, ועדיין מקישים בגג. הלילה עוד חיל האוויר הקיש בגג לפני שהקפיא מגדל, עלוב בבית חולים, ליד בית החולים שיפה. במקום לשטח את כל עזה. אז כל ה-64 מנדטים שלך, בנימין נתניהו, צריכים עכשיו להפגין מול הבית שלך. טוב. תשמיד את עזה עכשיו. עכשיו.
So you can see him completely get upset why they're not completely annihilating Gaza. Why are they even warning hospitals? They should just go and bomb it completely. Gaza is for them. This is how they speak. I mean, Ben Shapiro even made a video called Gazan Civilians Are Not Innocent. He actually made that video. He was trying to say how all these civilians, you think that they're all civilians, but they're all Hamas, right? So all of these people walking around, they're not really innocent. And by the way, I've made a refutation video. Have a look below this video and you can see it for yourself. So this guy on one hand tries to defend the blood of innocents, and on another hand, he makes a video declaring that there are no innocents in Gaza. So how do these people even care about innocent lives when they get bombed? Because I don't even think they're even innocent to begin with. But they will lie. They'll put the hood up. They'll cover your eyes and pretend to think they actually care about civilians, but they don't. And they've set the precedence to actually target civilian buildings. They've set the actual standard to do so. And all they do is put a boogeyman there. Oh, they bomb a hospital. Oh, Hamas was there. They bomb a UN facility. Oh, Hamas was there. They bomb a media platform. Oh, Hamas was there. They bomb a refugee camp. Oh, Hamas was there. And I love this analogy. If a hostage was taken and a gun was put to her head, and a gun was put to the head of their child, and police officers just randomly, without negotiation, nothing, just started shooting and firing 30, 50, 60, 100 bullets. Fired 100, 60, 70, 80 bullets and said, well, at least we got rid of the threat. Who would actually accept that in front of the international community? Everyone would say that is negligence. That is a crime. So using human shields as an excuse, it is just a cover-up to continue your bloodthirsty criminal activity in the region. And these hypocrites will never accept, and they don't accept, if rockets get fired into Tel Aviv or Israel, and suppose they said, well, we're just targeting soldiers, we're just targeting the military bases, we're just targeting Zionists who actually support Zion, the state of Israel, and they start firing rockets indiscriminately, and you're not going to call that collateral damage. You're going to say, well, they're firing rockets at civilian population. So that's an act of war and an act of terrorism. Imagine Hamas, for instance, said, well, the soldiers are hiding amongst the civilians. They live amongst those civilians. You would never accept that. And we know that there are Israeli military bases that reside within Israeli settlement in the southern part of Israel. Imagine Russia did that. Imagine Russia started bombing civilian populated areas and said, well, there's Russian forces stockpiling weapons in those buildings, or there's there's Ukrainian forces stockpiling weapons in those buildings. There's Ukrainian forces that are hiding in those buildings. If they started indiscriminately bombing, I can tell you right now, Ben Shapiro would declare Russia as being a war criminal.